G'day Australia and welcome to Washington as the impact of the US election is being felt not just here in the capital of the democracy but around the world. Our final show from Washington is going to be one full of all-stars. We have got the best lineup you will see all day, and it begins with our dear friend Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly, of course, wasn't just somebody who talked about Donald Trump, but as you know, she ended up standing with Donald Trump. I think what she had to say was critical in being able to give a whole collection of people the final permission to be able to vote for him. Megyn Kelly with the inside story of her role in the Trump victory in moments from now. Mick Mulvaney will join us as well. Now, I know you've seen Mick a lot on the channel over the past few days. What is fascinating about the chat that we're going to have is how do you put together a government? How will Trump put together a government? How does Trump 2.0 make decisions that are different than Trump 1.0? There's also an awful lot of detail that I want to get to this morning about how the Democrats, to quote one organisation, are scratching their eyes out. Now, away from all of this, a dear friend, mentor and hero of mine has made a very big decision today. He's made it public, and that is that the great broadcaster Ray Hadley is stepping away from 2GB. He has had an incredible career, a Hall of Fame career. We will discuss it and his decision to step away from the day-to-day of an incredible grind, but also an incredible career. Ray Hadley in a moment or two's time. But let's deal with everything that is happening in the United States today. Now, obviously, when we're not on television, we're trying to talk to as many people as possible to get a bit of an idea about what is going on. And the days in Washington are absolutely spectacular. The mornings are a little bit cold, but this was an image that we were lucky enough to be able to capture, which I think is going to become an iconic image. The day after Donald Trump wins the presidency, somebody with the giant flag, the MAGA hat, makes their way down to the White House. This is the equivalent of the under new management sign being hung at the White House. Have a look at that as people of many places come to celebrate the result that, of course, they took such a massive role in. Now, I mentioned Megyn Kelly as well, and I've got to say, I want to play you the way that she started her show today in the United States. Now, of course, we love her, but she is such a consummate professional and a brilliant broadcaster. And she's somebody who called BS on Kamala Harris years ago. And how's this for middle stump? She used the words of Harris to describe the joy of Trump.
The dreams, the ambitions, the aspirations that were unburdened by what has been. When Americans decided to turn the page on the Democrats and say, we are not going back, and say, hard work is good work.
She even used the actual footage of Kamala Harris's joy to explain the feeling in Trump land, which is otherwise known as the USA right now.
But joy cometh in the morning. The path may seem hard, the work may seem heavy, but joy cometh in the morning, and church morning is on its way.
Yes, yes, preach, sister. Joy does cometh in the morning.
Well, it's morning here in America, and we will continue to talk to Megyn about the joy that she and many other people are feeling. Now, let's get to what I think the story of the day is. And after playing nice on election night, after slowly going to their corners, licking their wounds, and Kamala Harris finally conceding this election, Joe Biden will speak from the White House today. Joe Biden will, of course, not answer any questions from the White House today, and he will talk about the importance of a peaceful transfer of power. It is a difference between, of course, what happened 4 years ago and what is about to happen in January. But the real story is one that will not play out in front of the cameras. Now, let me explain what we're about to see. Now, when you lose, it's everyone else's fault. When you win, I was 100% responsible. So you've got to take big grains of salt with all of this. But you need to understand the tension that was always in and around, firstly, the Biden campaign, that then became the Harris campaign, and it connects back to the Obama campaign. Now, obviously, Joe Biden hates Barack Obama because Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi got together and started to use all of the tricks of the trade and all of the tools that they had to push Biden out of the election. Now, whether that was exposing him to a debate, which had never happened before in a modern presidential campaign, remember that happened in June, which exposed how weak he had become, which produced a whole collection of pressure that meant he was eventually confronted. And pretty obviously behind the scenes, you can imagine he was offered one of two options. If you go now, we'll treat you like a hero, we'll name buildings after you, but if you don't go, we're going to blast you out. And that means everything from the 25th Amendment to let's start to have a look maybe inside Hunter's laptop. So, of course, he goes. Harris then, in 24 hours, is able to seal the deal because clearly she's been working behind the scenes for the many weeks, seeing what's coming to make sure that everyone else is out of the way. But because the election was so close, and because Kamala Harris has pretended to be side by side with Joe Biden the entire time, I am a continuation of what he is doing, but I'm really a brand new broom, she kept all of his campaign machine in place. Literally, her campaign was not run from Washington, it was not run from California, it was not run from Chicago, it was run from Wilmington, Delaware. It was Joe Biden's team that was still making the calls about how the Harris campaign was run. However, there was a little cherry on top, which was the price of the nomination, which was that for Barack Obama to help put it in her hands, she had to take on his former campaign chief. So you have the Biden machine being told what to do by the Obama team. Inevitably, that's going to lead to fights. Then, of course, there's the Harris team who is saying, well, great, guys, it's not about you, it's about us. But, of course, the last time the Harris team ran for president, she wasn't even able to get past the first round. Remember, she dropped out before the primary took place and Joe Biden became the nominee in 2020. So, with all of that swirling around, with all of that palace intrigue, I want to show you a story which has just dropped on a website called Politico. Now, Politico is a very inside baseball, inside politics. It's literally media about the bubble, for the bubble, read by the inner bubble, okay? Here is how they are starting to point fingers at each other. Now, as you can see, Team Biden versus Team Harris, who lost 2024. The Biden sympathisers want to pin her loss on, well, her. The Harris defenders believe Biden's undeniably at fault for creating a forbidding political environment she proved unable to overcome. The early hours recriminations only highlight the denialism of both factions in the wake of what will be the first GOP popular vote in 2 decades. This failure has many fathers. The article continues, and we start to get into some stories now about what was really going on behind the Joy and Love campaign. Given the scale of difficulty that she faced, and yes, how bad the initial internal polling was, she was being advised by people who helped her through her political career in California to start taking some risks. Yet, since she first was elected, Harris has been cautious to a fault, and here was once again at a moment that demanded risk. She may well have done the best that she could, as one person close to her told the reporter who wrote this story yesterday that there was no example of her actually confronting Biden on immigration or the Middle East. So put simply, if she turned around and started to say, well, Joe was wrong here and Joe was wrong there, the problem was she was in lockstep the whole time. Why? Because she knew that her run at the presidency was going to come 4 years later if Joe Biden had been re-elected, or her run at the presidency would come 4 years later if Joe Biden had been defeated. No plan for her to be running now, but then the daylight started to open and she ran through it with the help of, among others, Barack Obama.